Welcome to the Civil Engineering Writing Project. Our goal is to guide you through effective writing techniques in the civil engineering practice. This webcast is on Language Unit 4 and will discuss effective sentence structure and connecting ideas in sentences. You heard in Unit 3 that simple sentences are the most common sentences in civil engineering writing. In Figure 1, you will see that practitioners use complex sentences less than students. But sometimes an idea needs to be expressed with a complex sentence to be understood. About 1/4 of the sentences written by experienced engineering practitioners use complex sentence structure to connect closely related ideas. Complex sentences have two parts, an independent clause that can stand on its own, and a dependent clause that cannot stand alone. If these concepts are not familiar to you, use Grammar Lesson 1 before you use this unit. This unit describes the kinds of ideas that are typically connected in sentences in engineering writing. These connections are important for communicating engineering work, and they reflect values in engineering such as basis of information, different processes you might have used, and purposes for actions that you took during a project. In other words, attending to sentence structure is actually part of thinking and working like an engineer. Part of effective writing is to choose the type of sentence structure that will help your reader understand the message. Here is a reflection from an experienced practitioner.
Sentence structure is probably one of the most common things I revise in my own writing, to make it easy for the reader. Nobody wants to have to read a sentence twice to understand it.
Two ideas can be effectively connected in a single, complex sentence when each idea is relatively simple and the relationship between ideas is important. The sentence structure is more complex than in a simple sentence, but the sentence must still be concise, precise, and easy to read. Before showing you some examples that illustrate the most common types of connections expressed in engineering practitioners' complex sentences, we will look at an example sentence. Would you call this effective?
Although we are aware the owner is using the building for beneficial use, and thus we assume they believe it to be substantially complete, there is, again, no physical evidence for which S/A has the ground to claim substantial completion.
This sentence has more than two simple ideas being connected. 1, the owner is using the building. 2, the owner believes it to be complete. And 3, SA claims the building is complete, and there is no evidence that it is finished. In this sentence, the relationship between the ideas could be important, but the sentence is not concise, making it difficult to tell if the importance of this sentence is that the owner is using the building, or because the owner should not be using the building because it is not complete. This complex sentence is definitely not easy to read the first or even second time, making it not effective. One of the most common functions of using complex sentence structure is to explicitly state your basis of information. In engineering, it is crucial to tell how you got information or to explain the basis for your analyses or designs. Experienced writers most often use the words based on and provided by to express this. For example,
The design flood for Scout River and Scout River overflow bridges is the 50-year flood event based on Table 1.1 from the Oregon Department of Transportation Manual.
The study team conducted a review of existing bridge inspection records provided by the railroads and passed to the study team by Western Railway.
in example A, the source of information is from the Oregon Department of Transportation Manual. In example B, the records that were reviewed came from Western Railway. These sentences make clear that the firm is following expected standards, and if some information is later questioned, the explicit statement makes its origin clear. Another common reason for connecting ideas in a single sentence is for reporting the methodology. Writers state the software or approaches used for analyses. For example,
A culvert analysis was conducted using FHWA HY-8 culvert analysis software.
Each system has been sized using the City of Kimberly's standards for pollution removal.
these examples overtly demonstrate that they are following standard practice. In example C, the writer used the FHWA HY-8 culvert analysis software, and in example D, the writer used the City of Kimberly's standards for pollution removal. These sentences have a similar function to the basis of information by making the software or approaches explicit. The third most common function of using complex sentence structure is to identify the purpose of an activity. This is done by adding to and a verb, such as to observe or to investigate. For example,
we performed a site reconnaissance on August 12, 2013, to observe surface features.
An initial site assessment, ISA, was completed to investigate potential hazardous waste issues within the project area.
Explicit statements like to observe surface features or to investigate potential hazardous waste issues within the project area leaves no ambiguity about the purpose of an engineer's actions. These types of sentences often introduce a description of procedures. It is important to note that for any of these examples, you could have two simple sentences where the ideas are short and closely connected, but too many short, simple sentences sound awkward or choppy. For example,
an ISA was completed. Its purpose was to investigate potential hazardous waste issues. The investigation focused on the project area.
Now compare this to example F again.
An initial site assessment, ISA, was completed to investigate potential hazardous waste issues within the project area.
Example F is less choppy than example G. When sentences are too simple on their own, they are better when combined together. You have to use your judgment, but remember, most students try to write sentences that are too complicated rather than too choppy. 4 other functions that complex sentences often express are a condition, specific detail, a reason or cause, or an evaluation or comparative piece of information. You are probably familiar with using an if statement, including, because, or which, to create complex sentences. For a more detailed explanation of all the functions of complex sentence structure, check out the written version of this language unit. Even when ideas are related, there are times when a simple complex sentence would be too difficult to understand. When this happens, writers divide the ideas into individual sentences. The relationship between ideas is made explicit with a precise connecting word, such as therefore, thus, or however. Take a look at this example.
Soils under the bridge railings do not contain concentrations of lead in excess of EPA Region 9 residential PRGs. It is also unlikely these soils would be considered hazardous waste under Federal Regulations 40 CFR Part 261. Therefore, no remedial activity should be necessary for shallow soils under the bridge railings.
The information in example 1a has many parts. 1 concerning the levels of lead relative to screening standards, 2 the character of the soils relative to hazardous waste classifications, and 3 the conclusion about no remedial action. The writer wisely chose to make separate sentences and connect the conclusion with the word therefore. The separate sentences allow readers to process each bit of information sequentially. If the information was to be combined into one sentence, there would be too many different ideas for readers to hold in their minds at once. Here's a sentence that is similar to 1a.
Because soils under the bridge railings do not contain concentrations of lead in excess of EPA Region 9 residential PRGs, and it is also unlikely these soils would be considered hazardous waste under Federal Regulations 40 CFR Part 261, no remedial activities should be necessary for shallow soils under the bridge railings.
Compared to example 1a, example 1b has the same information and main ideas, but is very ineffective. Instead of separating the 3 ideas into 3 sentences, the author of example 1b has used only one complex sentence structure. Readers need to be able to hold the information from a single sentence in their minds all at once. Any sentence that presents multiple independent ideas or has multiple long clauses is probably going to be too complicated to be effective. These 4 techniques will help you revise ineffective, complicated sentences in your own writing. First, check that the expressions you express are accurate. Next, look for a series of ideas joined into a single sentence. Then, create new independent sentences if comprehension is difficult. Avoid multiple layers of nested ideas. And lastly, analyze your writing and thinking by marking relationships with lines or arrows to visualize the connections you are expressing. These techniques address the most common problems in civil engineering students' papers. As with all engineering, however, you cannot apply the techniques thoughtlessly. You always need to exercise judgment to revise effectively for your specific content, purpose, and audience. All 4 writing techniques presented here are explained in greater detail in the written version of Language Unit 4. Just like with word choices, you should not try to make your writing look fancy or impress people by having a long sentence. It's about communicating content easily for the readers. Let's practice a revision technique with a student writing example.
Arrival data displayed localized peaks at 15 minutes before each hour that classes began. Departures tended to have less pronounced localized peaks than arrivals, suggesting that departures are slightly less dependent on class time, as well as may account for the varying duration of class times. See Appendix Graphs A1 and A2.
Pause the video to identify the main ideas of this example and underline any ideas that are not relevant. This original example has several problems. The writer strings so many ideas together that they say the opposite of what they mean, which is that the varying class durations may account for the less pronounced peaks for departures, not vice versa. The most important idea in the second sentence, that departures have less localized peaks, is lost by the time the readers get to the end of the sentence. Go ahead and pause the video to try and revise these sentences so the overall idea is more clear.
Arrival data displayed localized peaks at 15 minutes before each hour that classes began. Departures tended to have less pronounced localized peaks than arrivals, suggesting that departures are less dependent on class time. Figure 2.
In this revision, the information about whether or not class duration varies is irrelevant and redundant and was taken out. The ideas that departures are less dependent on class time has already been stated and has also been removed. This revision makes the important ideas clear by having only one connecting idea by using the word suggesting. A word of caution. Use as well as very cautiously or not at all. Writers often undermine their meaning or grammatical accuracy when they use this phrase. Readers also stumble over it. Instead, connect ideas with the word and or use separate sentence for a new idea. For example,
the transit center design expands capacity to 7 bus loading bays, accommodates all routes currently serving the campus, as well as provides options for future expansion.
Instead, a sentence like this is more clear.
The transit center design expands capacity to 7 bus loading bays, accommodates all routes currently serving the campus, and provides options for future expansion.
Your overarching goal when doing revisions is to change any meaning that is inaccurate or misleading. By revising your work, the connection between ideas are more accurate. Part of that accuracy comes from using complex sentence structures. Just like paying close attention to your calculations and analyses, attending to sentence structure is actually part of thinking and working like an engineer. Communicating your ideas and work in a coherent manner helps your readers or clients understand your writing. This webcast has been on Language Unit 4, Effective Sentence Structure, Connecting Ideas in Sentences. In this unit, we describe the kinds of ideas that are typically connected by using complex sentence structure. For a more detailed description of the content covered in this webcast and other tips for writing and proofreading, visit the Civil Engineering Writing Project website at www.cewriting.org. On the website, click on Materials for Courses and Self-Study, where you will find units on language, grammar, and genre for more instructions and techniques to improve your writing. Each unit icon will take you directly to the written version of the unit in a downloadable PDF file. Thanks for watching, and join us again for more writing lessons from the Civil Engineering Writing Project.